season 2 bathtub. Ohio bathtub season 2. Best friends, no clothing, confusing bathtub season. It's bathtub season. It's bathtub season. It's bathtub season. It's bathtub season.
Well, good evening, Austin.
What's up, Corey?
I gotta remember talking to this microphone instead of where I would just said that. So me saying good evening might be shit.
Why are you not talking to your microphone?
It's coming in at an angle, and I'm used to talking straight on.
You gotta learn to talk at an angle?
I just gotta learn not to lean forward.
It's good advice for all of us.
No leaning forward. Ever.
All right, this is the Robeo. I'm in a robe. Are you?
I'm in a robe. Just my chest underneath. I'm showing it off for the camera. My little patch of hair. I've got one little circle of hair on my chest right in the center, and then none other hair. It's odd. It's like a diamond of hair.
No other hair on his entire body.
No, that's not true. You've seen me.
I have seen you get sheep legs.
But thank God it's like clear. Like the hair is clear on my legs, so you can't really tell that they're insanely hairy unless you look close. If those was any other colors, you wouldn't see leg.
Translucent hair. Corey and the magic translucent hair.
I posted about this a long time ago on one of my social medias, but I have what I think are 4 different hair colors on my body. Because I've got my like dirty blonde hair, I've got my reddish beard, I've got my clear leg hair, and then my pubes are like a light brown.
Okay, I have like 2 or 3 hair colors, I suppose.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Not necessarily about things I want to think about.
You don't think about these sorts of things? Like our last episode where I talked about my weird thing in the toes and how I can't move them like my fingers?
Not particularly. I have a lot of other things I think about that also bring me distress, but not that.
I consider things that others don't, and I probably shouldn't because it adds undue stress unto my life.
Because we need more of that.
Yep.
So, do you have anything under your robe?
I left my undies on because I remembered how frequently we were dealing with issues of too much showing last time. But that, and I got socks on because I'm in the basement again. It's very cold. So socks and underwear, the true man's get up.
Fair enough. I took my socks off, but I can still see the line from where I was wearing them. But I am wearing underwear featuring sharks eating hot dogs and pizza and hamburgers.
I do remember you were always into like having crazy underwear. Mine are just gray.
That's boring. You gotta have fun underwear.
I should, but my socks say it's okay to fart on them. It was a weird, like,
it's
black
natural.
sheep Christmas gift
natural.
a few years ago, but they're also, like, really thick, so they're good on cold days. And they remind me that it's okay to fart.
I thought to myself as I was thinking about what we were going to talk about tonight, the question, what's under your robe? And I was like, ooh, do I, like, hide something fun? Should I get, like, a gold chain or something, wear it under my robe? But I figured as long as my underwear was fun. I could have worn just black underwear or something, but I'm like, I'm going to wear some sharks under my robe.
I just put on a gold chain when you said that.
There you go.
It's not real gold, but it is Ralph Lauren. So I got a Ralph Lauren necklace and my Ralph Lauren robe, like we discussed last time. And how we discussed this season, how that has been one of my major hyperfixations over the last year.
Yes, you and the Ralph Lauren.
And I know it's not pronounced like that. It's supposed to be Ralph Lauren, but I cannot bring myself to say that.
Well, as we discussed last Robeo, I was wearing my grandpa's robe that was modified by my grandma because he was a Tallman. Well, this Robeo, I'm wearing a different robe.
Oh, I was going to ask.
It is blue corduroy with red diamond pattern on the inside, like pretty much all the accent areas, at the pockets, at the cuffs, at the collar. But this robe was my other grandpa's, and it was made for him by my grandma.
Oh, that's wonderful. How odd is it that you have bathrobes from each grandfather?
It's very interesting. This one was given to me by my mom after her mom passed and they cleaned out her house and everything. And we had started the podcast at that time. And she was like, here's a bathrobe. I'm like, fuck yeah, this bathrobe.
Amazing. And it fits the show with the blue corduroy. You're getting in with the FFA.
Yeah.
I almost thought about just wearing that with no shirt on underneath, but I thought that might be too disrespectful to the jacket.
Jacket on, jacket off, jacket on, jacket off. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
See what Napoleon has to say about it?
In my old FFA, not instructor, whatever the teachers called for that, there's a word for it, like leader.
Okay.
Mrs. Carity, I remembered to respect the jacket.
I think you should have just done it. Actually, I think what you should do is you should take a picture of yourself wearing only the jacket and send it to her.
It'd be giving very much vibes of that one instructor that was way into the student wearing it in the last episode.
That's fair.
He's accurate and sexy.
That's great. I can't wait to see the video of this new robe you have. It sounds wonderful. And it is
wonderful.
Handmade.
Yeah, handmade.
That's incredible. I actually picked up a second robe. It was just like a plain maroon one. I was trying to think of something to do with it. And then like every time I would think about it, it was like, no, I just want to be in my monogrammed one. So I donated the other one to Goodwill. Because I'm too pumped about this monogrammed robe.
You're like, I got a better robe.
I do. And now I got a chain.
You wear such a chain yourself!
So what are we doing here tonight, Austin?
It's a Robeo. It's a Robeo. Here's a Robeo. It's a Robeo.
We just finished up watching all of the animated Napoleon Dynamite and discussing it episode by episode. And this is our wrap-up episode, which we have called our Robeo. And this is not our first Robeo.
Not my first Robeo.
No, it's not. It is my second that I can remember. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So if this is your first episode, this probably is not a great one.
But maybe it is.
It might be. We'll see.
You can just skip us talking about the show completely and find out if we liked it.
Or you could just skip. Like, go skip. It's fun. Kids do it. We should.
Skip, skip, skip to my loo. Skip, skip, skip to my loo. Skip, skip, skip to my loo. Skip to my loo, my darling.
Did you know there's two kinds of skipping? I just learned this.
No.
I'm sure you know both of them, but I'm sure you've never thought about it. But there's the one where, like, your front foot alternates, so you're going left foot, right foot in front. But there's also the skipping where you're like a horse, but you're still skipping, where, like, the same foot stays in front.
That's silly.
But it's the same motion.
I don't know. It feels wrong. Like, I'm just imagining doing it and it feels wrong.
It's kind of like the whole, the coconuts.
Yeah, like, I'm imagining riding a stick horse. Like, I can picture it. I just don't like it.
I like riding stick horses. I like imagining that.
Do you imagine that often? Do you have dreams of riding stick horses?
Not as frequently as I should.
Get on that. Get some lucid stick horse dreams.
It'd be the stick figure on a stick horse.
There you go.
If you guys ever wanted to dig deep on me, that's what I've gone by online for a while, a stick figure. And that's what I was when I was a Twitch affiliate. So you can find my old Twitch channel and YouTube channel probably.
You'll recognize them.
You'll know. I would be probably much more drunk.
Yeah.
Because I was always drunk when I Twitch streamed.
'Twas a different time. Sober podcasting, drunk twitching.
We'll get into that later.
Drunk twitching is a different thing.
Yeah, that's when you know you've hit pretty close to the end. You get the drunk twitch. Back to my point, if this is the first time you're listening, it's probably going to be better, but not 100%, but probably better if you go back and listen to at least our second season. You don't got to go all the way back to the beginning unless you want to with The Tick. That was fun, that season.
The Tick is great. I highly recommend season 1. I had a lot of fun with season 1. Not to say I didn't have fun with season 2. Just to say that you don't need to listen to season 1 for this episode to be relevant. You need to listen to season 2 because it's season 2 and it's the end of season 2.
But you should listen to the season 1 because it's good for you.
It has medicinal benefits.
It helps inflammation. You can just say that about anything and it'll sell.
Unfortunately, it does cause dry mouth.
And may actually increase toxins, unlike most health foods. But they're the good kind, like cholesterol.
Exactly. We are full of cholesterol.
I just got my cholesterol checked for work. It was pretty good. Pretty good. One of the numbers was a little too high, but everything else was in the great range. I think it's all of my late night snacks. We've discussed this, but when I quit drinking alcohol, I got what's really common is like an intense craving for sweets, especially when around the times you would drink because there's so much sugar in alcohol. And oh my God, that's me. I eat so much ice cream and peanut butter and Reese cups. And I've discovered recently these kettle corn chips that are really good, and kettle corn. Oh man, that's my favorite late night snack.
I ate a whole pint of ice cream today.
Nice. What kind?
Pistachio gelato.
Ooh, that's one of my favorites. I love pistachio gelato and pistachio ice cream. Pistachio desserts are great.
So good.
I had a pistachio macaroon yesterday.
Who doesn't love expensive nuts?
Especially now that they're green.
As opposed to...
Pistachios were red when you'd buy them at the store for like decades. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't remember having red pistachios when you were a kid?
I remember green. They didn't change the color.
Yes, they did. So what happened? I actually know this one. Pistachios used to be really hard to ship without getting them bruised. So they would end up where they were going looking really bad, even though they were still fine to eat. And so they just dyed shell and all, nut and all, just bright red. So for decades, everyone just assumed that was the color of pistachios. But then in like the 90s or early aughts, they figured out a better way of shipping them and they didn't have to do that anymore. And now they're their normal color.
I don't remember that.
Look it up. You'll be like, oh yeah.
Maybe.
I used to be able to name every nut that there was. And that used to drive my mother crazy because she used to say, Harlan Pepper, if you don't stop naming nuts, pistachio nut, red pistachio nut, natural, all natural, white pistachio nut.
Well, my first question for you is, are you imbibing?
I have two great options here, and I couldn't decide which one to start with, so I thought I would ask you what I should have. The first is Oh Joy Sparkling Blanc Fine De-Alcoholized Wine with tasting notes of crisp, balanced, fresh citrus and dry apricot. Or, went to Aldi today, which is always great. They finally have an Aldi NA beer. I've been wanting one forever, and it's the Holland 1839 00. Which one do you think I should start with?
Start with the beer.
Okay. All right. Let's see how this is. Aldi NA beer.
Is that it this fine evening for you?
I did take a bit of a gummy.
Nice.
We're going to try this.
Nice.
I think it was You Good.
I've had those.
I don't remember which one. I know it was an indica, but I had half of one, which is what I've been doing to go to sleep. So I'm not going to go crazy or anything. I might just get a little sleepy. Oh yeah, and if you saw the start of the episode, I tried getting a pipe going, but it keeps going out. I haven't smoked a pipe in like years. See if I can get it going again. It's some dark pipe tobacco. I don't remember what kind. It was in a mason jar for like a year and a half.
Fair enough. See what happens.
It's still somehow too wet to get lit well.
I'm more sober than I usually am when we do our episodes, but I am ready to not be.
Oh, what are you enjoying?
Well, you're going to have to bear with me, just like we do with your sack soup seasonings normally, because I'm going to take us on a bit of a process.
Great. Now I'm ready for this other footage shoe.
First of all, I'm going to have a bourbon called Buzzard's Roost. It is a toasted French oak straight bourbon whiskey. And this was gifted to me by my friend Luke to thank me for some sound work I did for him and the boys.
Very nice.
So I'm going to pour some of that into my glass, and then...
Have you tried it yet?
Oh, yeah, it's very good. But then, for Christmas, I got a cocktail smoker from my friend Alicia. It is shaped like a skull. It's very cool. And I am going to smoke this bourbon with some hickory chips.
Wonderful.
So I am lighting that now. We are getting some smoke action going. I'm going to let that infuse.
I wonder if you could use like peat moss to go like get like a scotchy flavor.
Maybe.
You know me, when I drank, my favorite was a nice peaty scotch. Like a Lafroig or Lagavulin.
All right, we're going to wait for that to smoke. And while we do, I also have a cone here packed with ginger mints, which I don't know if you've seen that around your dispensaries, but I've really been digging on it.
What is it?
Ginger mints.
No. So it's just like a mint?
No, sorry, that's the strain. It's flower.
Oh. Like weird. Like a peppermint with THC in it. I don't even look at the flower. I know it's too much for me.
I have some smoky bourbon here I'm about to take a drink of.
I hope it's good and not terrible.
That's lovely.
Describe the flavor to us, Austin, as eloquently as you are able.
You know, I don't...
This doesn't sound very eloquent.
No, I have gone to bourbon tastings. You and I have done it together actually once. And I have gone to like a bourbon tasting class, you know, where they really talked about what you're supposed to taste, how to taste it, which they did some of that when we went as well. And I don't feel like I'm going to do a great job of describing it. I don't know that I could do a great job of describing it without having smoked it, but I do notice a difference having smoked it. I chose hickory because of the smell. I thought it would go well with the toasted oak, and I didn't want to just do more oak. And I think I was right. It seems like it brought out more of the woodiness that was already in it. It's definitely a little stronger on the nose. It's very good.
Wonderful.
And before we move on to anything else this episode, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to those who have contributed to this season so far. I don't know about you, but I had bath bombs gifted to me by a couple different friends. I'm enjoying this bourbon that was gifted to me by Luke. So I just want to say thank you, Luke, for this bourbon. Thank you to Alicia and Stephanie and my mom for the sack soup seasonings. And also to my mom for the coaster I'm using. I will hold it up to the camera, but I'm not sure you can see it. I'll have to send you a picture of it, Corey. It is a Piqua, Ohio coaster that says Atomic City and has like a artistic rendering of the Piqua nuclear power plant with some zombies.
That's awesome. Didn't they just tear that down recently, or did I hear wrong?
I'm not sure. I heard something about it recently too, though.
Yeah, the first domestic nuclear power plant for the general public was tested in Piqua, Ohio. It wasn't a permanent thing, but they just wanted to do a proof of concept.
I thought it was supposed to be a permanent thing, but they got all freaked out because everyone got freaked out about nuclear power.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was that they never intended it to be long term. It was just more of a proof of concept in a small town.
Didn't it work, though? Why would you stop? Oh, yeah, all the other stuff.
The underwear, mostly.
You are now the greatest superhero of all time, the amazing Captain Underpants!
Everything good that town had going for it back in the day, they fucked up.
Canals, underwear, nuclear power.
They had the hottest gay bar in the Dayton area for a while,
Did
but
they?
then they were like, we don't want to be known for having a gay bar, and they got rid of it.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that was back in the day.
Had an awesome hotel that Harry Houdini performed at.
Is that the one that's the library now?
Yes. It's where we had our proms.
Fort Piqua Hotel? Mm-hmm. Or Piqua Fort Hotel. Is it Fort Piqua or Piqua Fort?
I think it's Fort Piqua. But when they were deciding the county seat, it was between Troy and Piqua, and Troy got it. So to spite them and try to get more visitors, they built a badass hotel. And it worked for like half a century, and then it didn't.
It's true.
It's a big, long rivalry between Troy and Piqua.
That's also true. Aren't small town rivalries just like, they're silly?
It's because people are bored. You gotta have something to do.
So silly.
Let's rival someone. That's a good afternoon at least.
My afternoon rival's here.
It feels like something Kramer would have happen. Or Uncle Rico. Uncle Rico would have an afternoon rivalry.
Like the ghost of Dave?
Dave!
Dude, you still owe me $20 for jumping down that mine shaft.
I'll get you the money. You're just gonna have to wait till I sell my screenplay and write it. Got any ideas?
If you don't remember, Dave appeared in the episode where Deb published an article about Pedro that was very unsavory. And Napoleon tried to prove that there was a cave monster to divert attention away from Pedro.
There was a man named Dave. He died, became a ghost, and then he died again for some money.
For $20 both times.
Yep.
Or I guess technically 40 the second time.
What a way to go.
Well, speaking of...
Oh, where are we going?
Do you want to share your favorite episode?
I thought you'd never ask. I don't think it's going to come to anyone's surprise what my favorite one was. It was the FFA episode, but it wasn't just because it was it had FFA in it and I was an FFA. I genuinely think, like, for the reasons I talked about last episode, that it had some of the funniest lines to me. I liked how it had a coherent A and B story that intertwined well, which is hard to do in a short show, especially your first season. I just thought it was a great episode. It was hilarious, concise, and well written. What about you?
Well, just like you, if you listened to the rest of season 2, you know what my favorite is.
I can't remember.
It was the bed races episode.
Why was that your favorite episode, Austin?
Various reasons, and I will actually admit, I don't know that I think it's the best episode of the show.
It was a good one.
It's my favorite, but if I were to try to recommend this show to someone, I'm not sure it's the episode I would suggest, because a lot of what I liked about this episode was the format it took. It was a lot like the Wacky Races episodes of like Scooby-Doo and stuff back in the day. Mm-hmm. For that reason, and for all the gags and jokes they did in it, I think it's hilarious. I think it's my favorite. But I don't know that it's the best representation of the series as a whole. And frankly, if you showed me that and said, hey, watch this show, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, as you were talking, because that was a good one. This isn't like last season where your favorite was my least favorite and vice versa. The bed race is a great episode. It is in my top 3 or 4, not in the bottom. But I can see what you're saying. I also don't think it'd be a good one to suggest, but I don't know why.
So, and there's another point that we're actually going to get to later based on some of the things I want to talk about, but I think you kind of have to look at all the episodes and say, okay, this is Napoleon Dynamite by taking an average of them and what they give you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They are a little bit all over the place. They are going into different styles and emulating different styles. And, there are parts of this 6-episode series that don't feel as much like the episode prior to them.
Yeah. Now, going back through my notes when I was thinking about this, even though it was probably a shoo-in for the FFA episode, I will say it was more tough than I expected. And the one I would have picked for first instead was Liger Town, the first episode. That was almost my top one, so it's definitely number 2. And that might be a great one to suggest to somebody.
It might be. Liger Town or Scantronica, perhaps.
I think Scantronica may have been my least favorite.
Actually, I take it back. One of the best ones to suggest might be Pedro versus Deb.
Maybe. I would think it'd be Pedro versus Deb or Liger Town.
Yeah, one of those two. One of those two I feel like is the best representation of the show. Bed Races is my favorite.
Oh, actually, Liger Town wasn't number 1. It was like number 3 or something. But the first one, Thundercone, I do think that was a fairly strong one to start with. I just forget about that episode because it was like a billion years ago that we watched it.
It's true. I also kind of forget about that one sometimes.
It does have more callbacks.
Yeah, I went back and listened to some of our season, and I was reminded of Thundercone today.
Mm-hmm.
What's that over there?
I'll answer that question in 7 years. When you're ready.
Come on, tell me.
Oh, all right. That's the Thunder Cone.
I've heard people die there like 20 times a day.
That's favorite episode. What about favorite line? Do you have one for the entire series?
Maybe. I went through today and I highlighted my favorite from each episode because on our last Robo, we just spent a whole time just talking about favorite lines.
Yeah.
So let me go back through here. There was one that was like, that's probably going to be it. And I think I picked it for my favorite line of that episode, but I don't remember which one it was. Oh, yeah, this is the one that is probably my favorite line. It was when they're going through the training facility and, he's showing off all the different Badger studs. And the one guy does nipple twist. And he responds, reverse. Reverses the nipple twist and sends the guy flying. And I know that's not quite a line.
Yeah.
This just little snip. I think that's my favorite moment from the entire show.
All right.
Finally, we have our Badger studs. They are the true warriors of the PPC. Nipple twist! Reverse! Ah!
If we're going like actual line, it's probably going to be in Ligertown. And it was, I just remembered that one too. It was with Grandma, as I'm sure you're guessing.
Oh, is it the huge and ferocious?
Yep.
Hey, eyeballs, how do Grandma's pumpkins look in this one?
Oh man, they're huge and ferocious.
That's what your grandpa used to say.
But there was another good one that was similar. Are you kidding me, Napoleon? These paths have been dry since 65. Napoleon turns to Deb. He's like, what about your grandma?
Yeah, so that's, for those who may not remember, that's Ligertown. They need to get the baby liger that Napoleon stole mother's milk, and he's tapping his grandma and Deb's grandma to try to pump their breasts.
That was a weird one. Ligertown was probably the weirdest.
There was a lot of grandma's boob going on in that one.
And also, like, Napoleon hallucinating another plane of existence with a hot, sexy liger while he's writing Tina.
Shasta, yes.
It's an odd one. Oh, man. Now I'm thinking that might be my favorite episode.
It's a weird one. None of the others are quite like that either.
If I'm going for funniest, I think Ligertown. But for the reasons I said about just like the entirety of the episode, I think FFA is still my favorite. But if we're going just off what I found funniest and laughed the most at, it was the Ligertown episode.
I have two written down. One is one of the favorite lines I used in one of the episodes from this season.
The world is my bathtub, Napoleon. When are you going to learn that?
I had that one highlighted to talk about tonight.
And the other one I had to include because when I first asked myself what was my favorite line, it is the only line that I remembered. Just completely on my own. No notes, no listening back, nothing. First rule of friendship is don't screw Pedro.
I think it's because I asked you about it like 3 times this season because I couldn't remember what it was. That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's a really great exchange when it happens. That was Pedro versus Deb.
The first rule of reporting is to put the truth above all.
And the first rule of friendship is to not screw Pedro.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that episode in my notes while you were telling that, and one that I liked was, I'm only doing this because I wanted to be called Scoop.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
Deb asking Pedro, so you prefer showers to baths? And Pedro says, I follow my heart. If you're watching this, that would be pretty weird because I'm pretending to this rock as a camera. That feels more akin to the Tick than Napoleon Dynamite in vibe of line.
I will say, I think Pedro versus Deb, I'm going to put that as second favorite. I know we just do favorite, but I'm going to put that as second favorite.
We can do whatever the fuck we want, Austin. We can do whatever we want. We can have 2.
The more you go through it, the more I'm like, yeah, that's the fucking Scooby-Doo episode. My 2 favorite episodes both have like Scooby-Doo things going on in them.
I can see that. I can see that. I know I mentioned it a few times, but to me, the show very much, in a lot of episodes, not all of them, but in a lot of them, gives regular show vibes because it starts out very bland, boring town, and by the end, you've got ligers attacking everyone, Grandma talking about her blind boobs, and Napoleon hallucinating a godlike liger. And there were a few episodes that kind of, it was the first one, the Thunder Cone is, I think I said it in that episode, was very regular show like, where it starts out with just Napoleon getting a zit from some fried chicken, and by the end they're wrestling in a cage match with shotguns and pitchforks. Like, oh, it goes wild.
It's a whole like Accutane storyline. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Warning: physical side effects include bad breath, BO, lust, increased pain threshold, and fits of unbridled rage.
He really wanted to get married, and he destroyed a sink.
I always hated that sink.
Does it hurt?
Not really. I'm just having like all these strange desires right now.
Really? What kind of desires?
Well, like, I really want to get married and go on a honeymoon right now, but I mainly just feel like crushing people's lives.
Sounds like lust and unbridled rage.
Sweet! My rage has never been unbridled. I've always hated that sink.
Looking at the season as a whole, who do you think needs a bath the most?
It's Rico.
I think it's Rico. He needs it the most.
Rico gets the bath.
Because he shit on so much, but as I was like rereading through my notes, like he's the most genuine person in the family who honestly cares about everybody and does the most to help. And he's probably the dirtiest.
Yeah. His lifestyle begs for a bath, and his heart of gold deserves a bath.
He really does. He's a good guy. He's probably the only good guy. Him and Pedro.
Yep, him and Pedro.
All right, Pedro, for this sculpture, I was thinking maybe I'd be jumping over a mountain or a 7-Eleven.
I don't tell the Clippers what to do. They tell me.
So, do you think it was canceled too soon?
It's a hard one, and I've thought about this since we started this season. So I'm torn. I really like this show. I think this show is great, but I don't think it makes a good show because it's a very, like we talked about, it's a very different show than the movie, and they used the same cast, which is fine, and I think necessary with some of the stories they were telling. But I think it would have been a better show if it was unknown characters, but you can't make that show with unknown characters and have the same storylines. So it's like a recursive black hole. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. You're saying very similar things to thoughts I've had and things that the critics said when it was received. So we have more to talk about.
It's a hilarious show, but I think the characters held it back. But like I said, you couldn't make this show without using the original characters. So I don't know what the answer to this is. I'm torn.
There's a lot of questions to be asked.
Like, why was this made?
Why is the easy one? They had story they still wanted to tell. They had a name that made money and a network that wanted to make money.
You know what's funny about that, though? It seems like no one really knew what to do with it either, because I saw where the release nights were haphazard and not planned. So it's not like it was every Thursday for 6 weeks. It was just random nights when they had openings.
That's actually my next note. So I think it probably wasn't canceled too soon for similar reasons to what you said. I don't know that it really had a chance, and it wasn't really received well.
That's a good way of putting it. I saw where they were supposed to be, they did 6 episodes was greenlit, and if they decided to do a second season, they would have added 7 more episodes to the first. So there would have ended up being a total of 13 episodes.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't greenlit after those 6. And so I think it's funny they made the decision to just say it was on purpose and call it a miniseries.
But as you mentioned, Fox did move the show around kind of willy-nilly. Like, oh, there's a football game. We're going to put Napoleon Dynamite here tonight. So was it canceled too soon? Probably not. Was it its fault? Yes and no. It had factors working against it.
I wish they would have finished the first season. I want more of it, but I also could see it being canceled after 1 full season. So I think in a way, in my mind, it was canceled too soon. I think they should have finished out the season because it was funny. It's a good show.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I think it was funny. I enjoyed it. I don't regret watching it. I don't know that I'll ever rewatch it.
That was my next question.
I don't know that I'm any better for having watched it. For me, not necessarily canceled too soon. Not sure I ever needed it to exist. But even for all the good parts it had, you know, we were able to enjoy it. But at least I was enjoying it for what it was to some degree. They had strong moments. I don't know that I felt that it was strong, I guess.
I had written down, would I rewatch this? Will I rewatch this in the future? And at first, my like knee-jerk reaction was like, I don't know. But like the more I thought about it, I think I will. I did honestly really enjoy watching this, and I'm super glad we watched it. And I think I would put this on as like white noise while cleaning the house, or, you know, to fall asleep to, like a good like comfort show.
Sure.
I think I will rewatch this. That's why I'm so torn, I think, on should it have been canceled, because I love this show and I will rewatch it, but I also, like you said, understand why it was canceled and agree with some of the reasoning.
Sure.
This show's got me torn up inside, man.
You're tearing me apart!
Did you happen to look at what the critics said?
I saw it was very mixed. That's about all I saw.
Let's start with the big basics. IMDb gives it a 6.4 out of 10. TV Guide, 46%.
Oof.
Rotten Tomatoes, 32%.
Oof. If I had to give it a percentage personally, I would say like 70, 75. So I'm close to the IMDb.
I also found a collection of like TV critic reviews of it from when it came out. It was panned. They were terrible. They hated it.
It came out quite some time after the movie, if I remember. So it may have also just missed its mark.
On top of the critics hating it, I also found 2 YouTubers who hated it. In their videos and in the critics' reviews, one of the big points that was made was that the characters were very different than the movie, which we've both talked about.
Yeah.
You know, is this really a Napoleon Dynamite show if you're changing the characters so much, like the relationships so much?
It's weird.
So they all hated it for essentially the same reasons. They thought it was stale. One of the video guys compared it to Bob's Burgers and Family Guy. We made the Family Guy comparison during one of the episodes, I know. And yeah, it really does have moments that, I don't know, for me, pulled it back, made it feel dumb. Like, okay, you're a Family Guy episode now.
Yeah.
Not to say Family Guy can't be funny, but I think the flashback cutaway thing has gotten pretty stale for most people.
Yeah.
But most of the criticisms revolved around stale, recycled formats and how the characters were nothing like the movie that they were based off of. So I do want to ask you, what's your favorite character, though, from the show?
Probably Kip. I think he was funny.
Kip, okay. Unexpected answer. I like it.
Grandma's very sleepy. Firearms are safe with me. My foes will start respecting me. She's not as sleepy as I thought. I'm going to eat some jelly.
Many of my favorite moments in all the episodes seem to always involve Kip. And I think he was the closest to the movie, so had a little bit more depth of character from the jump in this show because it felt grounded would not be the word for Kip, but put together as a character. Consistent.
Speaking of, one of the YouTubers was very upset that LaFonda was not in this.
Who are you?
I'm LaFonda.
What are you doing here?
I'm waiting for Kip.
So I guess the timeline was supposed to be after prom, but before the wedding, you see after the credits in the movie. So it would make sense that maybe Kip met LaFonda, like we saw in the movie, but then they like broke up for a bit and then got back together. So it doesn't technically break canon that she's not in it, but it is weird.
Also, what a weird limiting space to put yourself in for a timeline of a show that you don't know if is going to be successful. Between prom and wedding.
Yeah.
That's when this happens.
Yep.
You know who else made that mistake and still managed to pull it off for the most part?
Who?
That 70s show. They didn't start at the beginning of the 70s, and then they had to go more seasons than they had years.
So what was your favorite character? Is that the question?
Yeah, favorite character. So, man, for a lot of this, I thought I would have said Grandma, because fuck, I love Grandma in this.
She's great.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being an old lady. I can say any rotten thing I want, and people just think I'm a character. Watch this. Hey, mailman! I get one more wet catalog and I'm putting a bullet in your head!
Oh, Mrs. Dynamite, you are a character.
But it's Rico.
Like I said, he deserved the bath. He was probably the best character in my mind, but all around, Kip.
For me, it's Rico, because I agree with you. He is the best character. He's the most rounded. He has the most, I don't know, depth is the wrong word.
He's something.
He just somewhat predictable, but unpredictable at the same time.
Yeah.
He's dynamic. Like, he kind of keeps you on your toes, and they gave him these shining moments in the show.
They did.
So they made you fall in love with Rico, and it worked. What this show did is make me fall in love with Rico.
Whoa, looks like I just caught a tight spiral from Cupid.
But Rico from the show, not Rico from the movie, because that's a very big distinction. Rico from the movie is an asshole. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's a jerk.
Oh, and you know we can't afford the fun pack. What do you think, money grows on trees in this family? Take it back. Get some Pampers for you and your brother while you're at it.
But Rico from the show is like the fucking best.
Yeah, he's great.
He's your weird uncle with a fucking weird life, and he does some sketchy shit, but...
And who also turns out to be super legitimately cool.
Yeah, he's a great dude, genuinely good dude.
Do you think we'll end up being uncles like that?
I hope so. Apparently, all you have to do is lose a football game.
And buy a van.
You're throwing the ball to me, right?
You know it, Rico. Hut, hut, hey!
Rico, Rico, Rico.
Hey, the new Dodge Santana. That thing's a mobile palace. Oh. And that was the day I became Uncle Rico.
Was it Napoleon's imagination that Rico's funeral is he'd be in the Santana van?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Bed Races episode.
Please tell me somebody died in there with him.
Nope, I died alone. Thanks a lot, Napoleon.
I wanted to ask you, since the characters are so different, is Kip your favorite character in the movie as well?
Maybe. Probably.
See? So that's very different for me, because Rico I do not care for in the movie. And it's really hard to give Grandma as a favorite character in the movie as well, because...
She's barely in it.
She's in it for one scene. She has like 2 lines. There's nothing there to love other than the actress.
Mm-hmm.
How was school?
Worst day of my life? What do you think?
Well, I want you to go see if Tina wants some of this.
Kip hasn't done flipping anything today.
Look, tonight me and your... Kip, listen.
What?
Tonight me and your aunt are going to go visit some friends, and we're not going to be back till tomorrow. We're getting a little low on steak, so I got Lyle coming over tomorrow to take care of it.
Well, what's there to eat?
Knock it off, Napoleon. Make yourself a dang quesadilla.
Fine.
I'll be back tomorrow.
I truly don't know who my favorite character in the movie would be, but it would not be the same as in the show. That being said, I know you're a much bigger fan of the movie than I am, and if I had to guess, you would probably still rate the movie above the show.
You know, I don't know. They're just so different. Like, it's apples to oranges.
Which do you prefer the characters in? Specifically the characters. Put aside which one is better, movie or show.
Maybe the movie.
Because that's very easy for me. It's the show for me. I know I prefer the show, but like the characters just, they oddly enough have more depth as cartoons, and they're funnier to me, and the hijinks are better, and I prefer the characters that they created there. Not to mention, they just didn't fucking create Grandma as a character before, and she's one of the best.
Yeah, it's just so hard because they are such different things. Like, I know we talked about it, but after we talked about it, I thought about it more and more, and it's like Napoleon Dynamite, the movie, isn't really a comedy. I know it was seen that way when it came out, but it's just, I don't think I'd consider it one in retrospect. It's like a weird, awkward, emotional coming-of-age story. And the cartoon is a
cartoon.
It's a comedy.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. They're not doing anything heavy or deep with it. It's a cartoon comedy. So I don't know.
I wonder what the intention of the movie was, because with what you've shared and I've heard from the creators, you know, it was sort of intended to be a comedy. And I think maybe they were just going for a really strange and specific type of humor, but maybe it reads as a coming-of-age story or an indie film or something because it can be interpreted that way if you aren't seeing it as this specific type of comedy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do think, like I said, one of the main criticisms is how the characters were changed and how
they had to be.
Seems just like any other cartoon to some degree with, you know, the ridiculous things that happen. But I don't think the unique style of the movie translates to an animated show.
I don't think so either. I mean, it may be like stop motion. I could see that. Fantastic Mr. Fox vibes.
Right. I could maybe see that.
Actually, I would love to see that. That sounds great. Like a claymation Napoleon Dynamite. But No, I don't think it translates at all into a comedy cartoon.
So that's the one thing that the critics and people who weren't for the show it kind of pointed this out over and over again through what they were saying.
I don't think that's a negative. It's just they wanted to make a cartoon and they knew they couldn't if the character stayed the same, so they just changed them because they had to. And I could see how a critic could say that, but I think at its root, that's not a bad thing. I think they made the right decision.
I think they had to.
Yeah.
I literally think they had to. And I think you have to recognize that when you're going to criticize the fact that the characters are different because it asks the question, should the show have been made? And maybe not is the answer. But because of this reason, maybe that's a big enough reason to not make the show. But they did make the show, and they made the show the way they had to make the show.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it.
The interesting thing about all that is that the creators, from my understanding, have expressed that they actually wanted to make the movie more like the show. Mm-hmm. They wanted to do more absurd things that they simply couldn't translate to live action. Likely partially due to budget.
Yeah, I think they had a budget like $20,000. Like it was nothing.
That's also very curious. If they made this movie that was so one way, but they really wanted to make it this other way, and the other way is like the cartoon, which people hate. Well, not all people. I will take it back. Amongst all of the things I found either simply talking about the show existing and nothing positive or negative reviews, I found one Reddit thread. It was very small, but the people on that Reddit thread really liked it.
I think I saw on Wikipedia that there was like one newspaper in like Philadelphia that loved it. It was like they just had to give one example in Wikipedia of somebody who liked it.
There's one newspaper in Philly.
This one dude, it was his shit. We talked about it, but I remember watching the first episode in college, like when it aired on TV.
Mm-hmm. It really makes me wonder, and we can talk about this as much or as little as you want. I don't know how much there is to say, but what if the movie had been more like the cartoon? What if the cartoon had come first? Would the movie have happened?
I don't think so.
Would the cartoon have been successful?
I don't think the movie would have been successful. I think it was having to work within these tiny constraints. They made what they could, and that all mixed together somehow produced a pretty significant movie, whether you like it or not.
I don't disagree with you.
I have also heard good things about their second movie, which I've not watched. I bought it like a couple weeks ago. Gentlemen Broncos. Have you seen that?
I have seen it. I don't remember it, but I have seen it.
It wasn't as popular, but they would have had a much larger budget for that. So who knows? I mean, the people working on the movie and their other movie and this show obviously have a knack for comedy because they're funny. So they must be good writers and directors to some degree to be able to produce both of these.
Sure. Do you think that if the movie hadn't existed and we were introduced to Napoleon Dynamite as a character for the first time, the way the TV show gives it to us, it would have been successful?
I think it would have been more successful. I think it would have lasted like 3 or 4 seasons and we'd be at like a bonfire half awake, like, hey, you remember this show Napoleon Dynamite? Like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. And that would be all we would talk about it. So I think it would have lasted longer, but it wouldn't have been anything crazy special.
And we likely wouldn't have gotten the movie. But if we did, they might have had a bigger budget for it, and it might have been more like the movie that wouldn't have been as successful in the first place.
But I don't think that would have been a good movie.
Right.
Just like the movie doesn't translate into a cartoon, I don't think this cartoon translates into a good movie.
I'm curious, though. As much as I recognize Napoleon Dynamite is what it is and is what it needs to be and was a huge thing, again, whether I like it or not, I recognize it for what it is. I'm curious as fuck to see what it would look like if they could have done whatever the fuck they wanted.
Yeah.
Morbid curiosity.
I bet we would have had at least one scene with like the talking god Liger, like superimposed.
Yeah, maybe.
I am Shasta, the first and greatest of all Ligers.
My liege. I've always dreamed of meeting you. Can you read my thoughts? Hold on, let me think of a number.
3.
Sweet!
But that's not why I summoned you to... Napoleon, please stop thinking of numbers.
Sorry.
Did you like this show?
More than I ever expected I would. I did like it. It didn't turn me off. It just wasn't my favorite thing.
Yeah? It's funny this morning, because I hadn't started my notes until later in the day, but I was like prepared to talk about how this was just kind of eh. But as I was flipping through my notes this afternoon and like rereading stuff, I was like, I genuinely liked this. Like I'd forgotten kind of, but looking back on it more critically, that was like, shit, I like this.
It had really good moments. Like, wow, what was the episode? Was it the Scantronica episode with the magic?
Oh, with Kip? Yeah.
That was great. That whole
Kip was a stage
magician.
magician.
What was it? It was the ball.
Oh, Fushigi.
The Fushigi, yeah. His whole side storyline with Rico was incredible.
The contact juggling. Rico having him on corners, like performing.
The way it crossed over with the party, it was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Hello, I didn't see you there. My name is Kip Create, and welcome to my world of creative entertainment. Check out some of my moves, if you dare. I can do the squid, the jellyfish, and I'm great with kids. Hi there, little guy.
Hey, Mr. Create. How much would you charge to perform at my baptism?
$80.
Here's 90.
The bed races with the garden of famous people from Preston.
Yep, the enshrubment ceremony.
We're taking our show on the road today to the Garden of Fame. You know why, Art?
I don't pry.
For the enshrubment ceremony of former disgrace-turned-bed race champion, Rico Dynamite. In order to make room for the topiary of Rico Dynamite, they're going to have to destroy the one of former champion Grandma Dynamite. You think they're related, Art?
Maybe.
Any idea what they're gonna do with Grandma?
Mulch her.
Actually, that's correct.
I guess I'm a little split down the middle in a way, because for me, it was probably 3 episodes that I really enjoyed and was like, fuck yeah. And 3 episodes that I was like, this is okay.
But that's any first season of a show.
For sure. And I think, like we said, it shot itself in the foot a few times, but it wasn't really given a chance in a lot of ways.
And then it showed its feet.
Sucked on its toes like a gremlin.
I think I'm here sucking your toes.
I've been talking about that on our Blue Sky a lot recently. I know you don't check that account.
I don't have access to that account.
I've been skeeting. That's what it's called instead of tweeting. They're skeets.
Oh, good God.
That's not official. It's just everyone on it decided that's what they were called. That's not something Blue Sky itself.
God.
So everyone's just skeeting all the time over there.
Ay. The internet sometimes.
It is weird how little there is about this TV show online.
Yeah.
Like, there's hardly any, even just like cuts or edits or from episodes on YouTube. Like any other show, you'd be able to find a million little 30-second clips, on YouTube. There's almost none for this.
They buried it.
We had to find it on Tubi. And you had to search for it. It wouldn't just pop up. And then they didn't even care enough to put the episodes correctly with their descriptions. They didn't match up.
They were in the right order on Canadian Disney Plus.
Well, the episodes were in the right order on Tubi, but the names were all wrong.
I don't even know if they were in the right order, because I definitely...
They were in release order. They weren't in episode order.
No, because I was looking at release order, and they weren't in order, because I watched FFA first, and that was the last one.
So it was the opposite. I can't remember. One of us had it in one order, and the other had it in the other. Well, it was my order that they had it in on Tubi for the actual video files, but the descriptions didn't match up. But that's not the actual release order. So
yeah,
the
so
whole thing's a mess.
It fucked everything up. Everything was sideways.
And then they took it off.
Only one of us has a VPN.
Because I don't feel like paying for that.
Comes in handy sometimes.
I have an Onion browser for stuff like that.
Fair.
I'm like Shrek on the internet. It's all just a swamp and we smell.
What are you doing in my swamp?
That's a wrap on Napoleon. Not a wrap for this episode yet, but that's a wrap on Napoleon.
By Kippers.
Do we recommend this show?
Yes.
Kinda.
More than we should.
You have my lukewarm approval. I don't think you'll hate it.
No, it'd be a great show to have on in the background.
Just don't go into it looking for the movie. If you're a big fan of the movie, come into it thinking this is something else.
And then just come into it. It'll like it.
Oh, yeah. Like I like it.
What have we learned from doing this season? Whether it's technological, about ourselves, about writing or editing or show creation. about making a podcast. What do you think we've learned this season, Austin? It's a big question, I know, but I thought it was a good one.
I learned that if your bath gets cold, you can run the water between talking and make it warmer.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all you've grown over the last year.
That was my big one.
You shrunk instead, like a shriveled raisin in the bathtub.
Probably.
Actually, a shriveled raisin would probably expand in the bathtub.
Probably, yeah.
That sounds profound.
I don't know. What did I learn this year making our podcast? I'm sure I learned something other than that there was a Napoleon Dynamite show.
I mean, I grew a lot as a person, I think. I fell off the wagon about halfway through this season, but I got back up on it. I've been going to regular meetings and doing a lot of reading and trying to like do self-growth. I think that's where that hyperfixation about parapsychology has come from. But I feel like I've made a much better base in my brain to grow from. I had a bad foundation. And I think this show, we've talked about it before, in a way helps having a regular connection with a friend to talk about something adjacent but not serious, but where we can, add that stuff in, but just keeping up with people and having a project to work towards. Instead of just doing things like I've done in the past, I'm trying to actually build on them and have not conviction, but like put my full self into it instead of just jumping from one idea to another. That's been mine for this.
Mm-hmm. Really invest in it.
Yeah.
I've become more disciplined in certain ways. I'm still a fucking mess, but I've become more disciplined in certain ways. I learned about some really great beers from drinking in the bathtub.
I learned how to actually organize my files for this show. I was going back, trying to find clips for something I was working on for one of our videos. And oh my God, my season 1 files are awful. Like 3 of the season or episodes didn't even have their own folders. I just threw them in the base folder, like the root folder. And
oh, Jesus.
The names didn't make any sense. I was like, what the fuck was I doing? How did I do this? I even edited like fully a couple episodes.
What are you doing over there?
I got a good standard of how I now organize my files on my computer for creating this podcast show. You're way more organized than me in general.
Yeah, I've had that stuff down. Like, I do enough audio work already that like once I figured out my workflow, that hasn't changed that much. It's just gotten more efficient.
Just in your like whole life, you are so much more organized a person than me. We talked about this in our like methods towards a project. My duct tape pirate ship and your well-designed and built yacht.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, you can probably see from our videos how it perfectly personifies our takes for this episode. Because I can't see you, but if it's anything like your last Robeo, yours was all clean and well lit and good colors in the background. And I've got my bookshelves of all my hyperfixations and half-finished projects and the instruments I know a little bit how to play and books and books and books and video game consoles behind me because I think it looks cool all together. And it's a mess, and that's me.
It's my mess.
It is well lit, but I did not put the backdrop up this time. I'm sitting in front of my desk, so you can't see it, Corey, but everyone else who is watching our video later can see my speakers and toilet poster and maybe the Tick newspaper. I'm not sure what all is in the frame, but I'm sure my rack is there. Not like Grandma's rack, my audio rack.
My rack's like Grandma's.
Huge and ferocious.
Always. And hairy in one specific spot.
Just like Grandma's.
But you'll not guess where that spot is.
Harry Areola.
How do you do?
Ron, Jack wants to know if he can go back to calling himself Jack Lime instead of Jack Lame. He's really struggling with it. And
No. Can't. It's a bet. Oh, Jesus. If you want to change it, you can.
Like what?
Art Areola?
No, that's worse. You know it's worse.
Lyle Tit or Steve Anus?
So, Austin, we can't talk about it fully yet, but just to tease it a little bit, we have a big announcement likely to be made in the near future concerning our show as a whole, and it's a good one. So be on the lookout on all your various socials that you follow us on, because we have all of them.
We'll be skeeting you soon.
We'll be skeeting all over you soon. Your skyline, that's what it's called. Instead of your feet, it's your skyline over there. Your skyline
is going to be full of our chili.
Full of skeets, just tasting like chili, because there's something medically very wrong with us. But no, we have something cool that we've been working towards with the show in general, and I'm excited to talk about it, but not quite yet.
Coming soon to your ear holes.
Tasting like chili. Maybe will it sound like chili? Does chili have a sound?
It's very sloshy and squishy. If you want to know what chili sounds like, go back to our Halloween special from this year. There's some gurgling at the beginning.
Yeah. If that's your thing, too, you can go listen to that.
Gurgling is your thing.
I'm not going to look it up, but I'm sure there's something like r/gurgling on Reddit.
Probably.
It's got to be. Those people have some specific fetishes, that's for sure.
Well, Corey likes to tease our audience, but I don't want to leave you with nothing. So would you like to talk about our ideas for season 3? Because those are open to discussion.
This one was my choice, the Napoleon Dynamite. And if I remember correctly, Austin, was this correct that we had the idea because I got the Tick on DVD and it had a insert from when it was new of other shows you could order, and that was one of them?
It's possible it was the Tick, but my recollection is that it was your King of the Hill DVD.
Oh, it probably was. I was working on digitizing all my DVDs, and I think you're right. But yeah, I was just going through and digitizing some DVDs to add to my Jellyfin server. Humble brag there about getting that up and running. But yeah, inside one was like a sales brochure for other DVD of TV shows you could order, and that was one of them. I was like, hey, this seems weird. So I picked that one. Austin picked the Tick, if I remember correctly.
I did?
You did. So it's Austin's turn if we're doing turns, but I'm also very tired with the 2-year-old, so I'm okay with that 100%. And you want to talk about what your first idea was, but then how world events may have shifted it to another one we're doing.
It's true. Initially, I was considering the Toxic Crusaders show.
Oh, you didn't tell me about that. That sounds cool.
It has a similar vibe to the other one that ended up being what I did tell you about. But I started watching that. It is also on Tubi, I think. But I ordered a shirt from a store that I shop online. And they always send like a trading card and a sticker with like every order. So I get this sticker, and it says Dino Riders, and it's really cool looking. And I look it up, and it's a 1-season show from the 80s, I believe. So that took the place of Toxic Crusaders. Not to say we won't ever do Toxic Crusaders, because if anyone listening knows me, they know how much I love the Toxic Avenger. But
I don't know anything about this.
We'll get you learned.
And you can tell all your scum friends that things are gonna change in this town. I'm not just another pretty face.
But Dino Riders is what we were initially considering for season 3. We were all but decided. But as many of you know, recently, David Lynch passed. And that got me looking at more of David Lynch's media again.
Would you like some coffee?
And I found out that after he did Twin Peaks the first time, he had 2 shows that only lasted for 1 season. Not long after, within like a few years of it. So one of the goals that we've had is, and it's been difficult, we've had lengthy conversations trying to figure out exactly how we can do it, but we want to be able to have guests on our show.
Safely and non-sexually, physically.
Way to make it weird, Corey.
That's why I'm here.
But, you know, we want to keep with what we're doing, but we want to involve other people. God damn it, now you made it weird. We're looking for a third.
Always.
Clean, can host.
Likes toe gremlins. Doesn't mind an old man under your sink.
In all seriousness, we haven't been sure how to do this.
Yeah.
We watch a show and we talk about it. So, like, how do you bring another person into that?
In depth.
Or how do you create a show or an episode that is not that, so you can involve someone else, but it still be topical and relevant to our show because we are a very themed show. Obvious answer is you do one-off specials like we did with Everything You Know Is Wrong and Baby Fever. Is that the name of the other one?
I think so. And the Dracula.
Yep, the 2 Halloween specials and the Everything You Know Is Wrong. We want to keep doing more of those. Obviously, we could involve a third person with that.
Yes, please. Those are my favorite episodes we've done. All those 3 you just mentioned.
But this show kind of fell into my lap as I was exploring David Lynch's catalog. There's a show called David Lynch's Hotel Room, and it opened my eyes to 2 things. 1,
your sexuality.
Okay, 3 things. Fine. 1, my sexuality. 2, this would be a great show for season 3 and to do guest episodes because it's only 3 episodes itself. And 3, that anthology shows are a great way to have guests. 1 season anthology means each episode's self-contained, but it's still 1 season.
Yep.
So that's what we're working on now. I don't know for sure if you're going to see Dino Riders or if you're going to see David Lynch's Hotel Room.
Or something else entirely.
But we are working towards those, looking for the Hotel Room season to be a guest season.
Yes. I'm very excited. Bring people into our twisted world.
Our twisted bath.
Our weird hair. Our sack soup seasoning.
We'll ship you a toaster and tell you it's a microphone.
Free gift. So yeah, that's what we're doing. There may be a bit of a break as we get some stuff worked out, finalized, recorded, so we can have a slight backlog so we're not breaking our backs making anything. So if that is the case, know that we're working on it and don't be mad.
Yes, I apologize for any lull that may exist, but I think we both have the intention to do at least 1, if not a couple episodes to bridge the gap in the meantime.
Well, won't leave you hanging too bad, because I know how much everyone loves our sultry sounds in your ear holes.
We even talked about revisiting The Tick. We'll see what comes.
But until then, is there anything you suggest for people in the meantime?
I'm going to circle back to what I just said about watching David Lynch stuff. Watch David Lynch stuff. Blue Velvet is probably my favorite of his movies. It's very good. It's on HBO. I just finished watching Twin Peaks, both the 2 original seasons and the 2017 return. It's all very good. The first season and the 3rd season are the best. The network had a little too much influence on the 2nd season, but it's necessary to the story, and I highly recommend it. The other thing I'd recommend is just to find a project, find a hobby, whatever it is that you can keep coming back to and working on and like hit milestones and get excited about. I struggle with that. It doesn't always work for me. I fall off. We all know I'm not sober, but that's my wagon I fall off, is being productive and being able to commit to doing the things that I'm trying to do.
Even if it's like you mentioned Legos in episode, that's a project that has a goal and an end that is fun. Or like crochet we've talked about is one I do for the same reason, where you can do it while watching a movie, but you feel productive. You make something, which is really cool. I think things like that are great. Those little things, those hobbies. I think we've talked about this, but I have a strong feeling that people don't have enough hobbies. Hobbies need to make a comeback.
I don't know what it looks like for a non-neurodivergent person, but
those exist.
It can be really good to find a hyper-focus. And right now, I've been working on mixing a couple songs, and that's been my hyper-focus. And, to someone else, if someone was just watching me, like The Truman Show, they'd probably think I had a problem. They'd probably think there was an obsession or something going on. But every time I'm in my car, I just listen to those songs on repeat, like my most recent mix, the mix I've done before. And I get excited to come back to it and make tweaks and changes. It's good to have something like that keeps drawing you in. So if you can find a project that you can get excited about, I highly recommend it.
That actually, it wasn't an attack I was going to talk about with one of mine. But real quick, with David Lynch, I'm a big Dune fan, but I'm not a fan of his movie. I know it wasn't really how he wanted to make it. But if that's one you wanted to watch, you've always struggled with it, look it up. There's something called the Spice Diver edit, which is where somebody took the movie and re-edited it into the order and the storyline that David Lynch originally wanted it to be. And it's much better. I mean, it's still very corny, but it is much better. Have you watched that one, Austin?
No, I've not seen that one.
The consensus online is that's the best version of the film. I think they even got it to where you can order on DVD because so many people preferred it. They got like the rights or whatever to be able to make it.
It's almost like he knew what he was doing.
My most recent project was because of my birthday. I didn't really know what I wanted, but a while back, I'd gotten my wife a little emulator handheld because she loves playing Pokemon games while she's on the couch. We own the like OG Game Boy ones, but it's getting hard to like, keep them charged or, the games needing their batteries replaced because they're getting old. So I got her one of those and I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to play some of my old like PS1 games or NES. I kind of want one myself. So I ordered one. But if you know anything about emulator handhelds, or even if you don't, they can be a lot of work, but that's not a bad thing. I've been doing deep dives on what's the best OS to install because everyone thinks that the one it comes with sucks. So they've written their own operating systems for them. And you can get different like templates and stuff. And then finding game ROMs. Not that I've done this, but if you were to look for game ROMs online, it can be very hard to find ones that actually work on the device that you've picked out of the billion that come out every month. So I'm sounding like I'm frustrated, but because I have gotten frustrated a few times, but it's also been fun. Like it scratched that troubleshooting itch in my IT brain, but like working towards something that's really cool. Like I finally got it working the other day and I was just sitting on the couch while my son watched like Toy Story or something. And I was just sitting there playing Spyro on the handheld. And I was like, this is so cool. I told my wife like 3 times, like, I'm so happy right now. Being able to sit on the couch and play one of my all-time favorite video games on a handheld that I set up and tweaked and worked on and to like optimize the settings.
That's the thing.
Really cool.
It sucks to have a problem you need to troubleshoot. I've dealt with this with installing software and things before. It sucks. It can be very frustrating. It can feel fucking defeating. But if you can overcome it, it's so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was cool. If you're curious, the one I got, because Austin, have you ever looked into these handhelds?
Yeah, a little bit.
There's like a billion companies that make them, and they each come out with like 3 every month. So it's super complicated to figure out what's available, what you should get, what's reliable, who knows if it'll be reliable, but what feels best, what's easy to work on. So it's a whole bunch of work to find it, but after I did a lot of digging, I got the Anbernic RG Cube XX. The only other thing I had was, while I've been donating plasma recently, I've been playing Balatro, and I've been playing it for a while. I didn't just discover Balatro because it's like, it was one of the top games of last year, but have you played this?
Nope.
I think you would dig it. It's like a roguelike, but with poker. Each run, you can pick a deck, and they have like different attributes. Like one, you can play 5 hands, but you only have 3 discards each round. And the next is like the opposite, or one, you can have multiple special abilities, or all the cards are like 1 of 2 suits instead of 4. But you get random jokers you can pick from, which add little twists. You can have up to 5 jokers normally, but there's ways of twisting it to have more with rare cards. And each run probably is like 30 minutes. So it's the perfect while you're like in the airport or donating plasma or waiting at the doctor's office game. And it's so good. You've got to check this out. It's good on mobile too.
I don't know how to play poker.
You don't? Really?
Really?
You know how to play Yahtzee?
Once upon a time I did.
Then you know how to play poker. Yahtzee is just poker for kids. It's the exact same rules.
It involves dice, not cards.
Yeah, but it's the same rules. You have like 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, full house, straight. That's poker.
It's never clicked.
It's a good game. It's a good game. I think I talked about it last episode. I did beat Resident Evil 4 Remaster, and that was amazing.
I think one of the last episodes I talked about starting Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh, yeah.
I
How
beat
is
that
it?
Very quickly. That was great. I beat it.
Oh, okay.
It was a fairly short game. It was good.
We've been rewatching Anthony Bourdain's shows, and man, it's hard.
Yeah.
He was such a good writer. He's the celebrity death that hit me the hardest in my life, and I didn't expect it. But those are great. Roadrunner, the movie about him, we saw that in theaters. Me and my wife did. She's a big Anthony Bourdain fan too. But all those are wonderful and insightful and just shows culture in a way that I don't know if I've seen shown in such realness on anything else.
He was a real treasure.
He was, yeah.
The world is filled with people doing the best they can, who love their kids and, would like to, put on a clean shirt every morning and live their lives with a little dignity and have access to food and water, hope,
Well, do you got anything else you want to talk about?
I just want to say thank you for listening to season 2, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
And if you haven't liked and subscribed and rated and reviewed and all those things, please do.
Or even told a friend.
Yeah, send a friend an episode. Maybe a special. A special's a good one to send them.
We have a website. Maybe not show them our skeets right away.
Save those for later.
Skeets are a late night treat for those aware of their power.
First, you have to introduce them. Then they'll want to know what's under the robe.
And it's gray underwear and a patch of hair. And Austin
Shark underwear.
Shark underwear. And you said it was diamond inside?
Yeah, the robe is diamond on the trim parts. Red diamond pattern.
Nice. Well, on that note, Austin, I think us as well as all those listening should go take a bath. You deserve it. Bye.
Bye.